We can't hear you. Yes. Welcome, friends. This is another evening of our continuous integrative medicine educational series. Welcome. Today is a very important day. Our speaker is a distinguished speaker. We have been waiting for him to give us a green signal because he had been waiting to receive the acceptance letter of his wonderful work on ashwagandha. So he's very humble. He comes from Japan, and he's a molecular biologist who has worked extensively on this Indian herb ashwagandha. But he's a man of integrity because he did not want to come to you all unless he had published some breakthrough data, which he will be presenting today from Japan, from one of the pioneering institutes of Japan. It's about 9:40 p.m. in the night in Japan. So let us get introduced to him through our coordinator who helped us to connect with him, Dr. Saras Jyoti. She's also here. I will request Saras to formally introduce Dr. Kaul. You have to unmute your mic, Saras.
It's unmuted. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sunil Kaul. And he is born and brought up in Kalimpong, Darjeeling, India. He obtained his MPhil and PhD degree from University of Delhi, India. After his initial postdoctoral training, he was appointed as a researcher at the prestigious National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology in Japan. And he worked there for last 30 years. His major research interest is to understand the molecular mechanism of stress, aging, and cancer. He has been merging the traditional knowledge with modern technology like gene silencing and imaging to understand the mechanism of action of Ayurvedic herb ashwagandha in particular. With more than 200 publications in interventional peer-revised journals and several invited talks internationally, he has been editorial member of several scientific journals. He's a chairman, Indian Science Association in Japan, a registered NPO in Japan, international coordinator, DPT, AIST Japan, International Laboratory for Advanced Biomedical at AICT Japan, adjunct professor, Department of Bioengineering, Hanyang University, Seoul, Korea. He has been honored with Fellow of Geriatric Society of India, Overseas Fellow Biotech Research Society of India, Fellow of Indian Academy of Neuroscience, and Foreign Fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India. It's my privilege to honor, sir. Sir, please, will you continue with your topic and spread your knowledge with us?
You have to unmute the call. Yeah, unmute. Yes.
So now shall I share my screen?
Yes, we can all see it. You are
okay.
good to go. And you're audible.
Okay. Shall I go start?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Akshay for inviting me to this very important series of talks. So as the title goes, I'm going to take you through our work on Indian Ayurvedic herb ashwagandha. So as we all know that stress, aging, and cancer have a strong link. As we get old, the number of incidents of cancer increases. So after the age of 55 or 60, it is more apparent. Similarly, in culture, cells divide for certain population doublings, after which it age and die. But if something goes wrong to one cell, it keeps dividing and become cancerous. So this is just to show that how normal human fibroblast or cancer cells look like in culture. So this is a normal human fibroblast at population doubling 20 when they are very young and very well nicely arranged. But when they become old at the population doubling 55, they become flat, unorganized. On the other hand, cancer cells either at the population doubling 20 or 120, they look same, they look young. So what we want to understand in the laboratory is why normal cells age and why cancer cells keep dividing. So we want to find out some molecule factor or some herbal chemicals that could alter this phenomena. For example, we want something that can extend the life of a normal cells, or it can inhibit the growth of a cancer cells. So 30 years back when we started our work, we compared normal cells with cancer cells and look at the protein profile to find something which was present in one and absent in the other. So we identified a protein that was consistently present in normal cells. So we named it as a motilin. But over the years, in 30 years of research, we came to know that motilin is more involved in carcinogenesis. Similarly, in 2003, we identified, cloned another molecule and named it as a CARF. This is also involved in aging and cancer. So it will take much more time to go to the clinical trial. Before that, we thought 15 years back that why not we look for something preventive rather than therapy? So we moved on to Ayurvedic approach. So I don't have to introduce what is Ayurveda, but it is an Indian traditional medicine, and it involves use of several plants, philosophy, yoga, and so on, as you are all aware of. So after an initial screening, we decided to use Vidania somnifera for our studies, that is commonly known as ashwagandha. And why ashwagandha? Because ashwagandha has been a household medicine for hundreds of years in Indian subcontinent. It is used for enhancing memory, anti-stress, enhancing muscle, anti-depression, and so on. But the mechanism is not known. So what we did in our study, we took ashwagandha leaf and make extract of alcoholic extract, and then characterize all the components present in the extract and put them in culture. So whenever we do use cell culture, we always compare normal and cancer cells in parallel, so that we want something which is good for normal and which kills cancer cells. So once we find some molecules, then we move on to in vivo where we use rodents. So our initial study was that ashwagandha leaf extract that we call eye extract, when we inject the nude mouse with a very highly aggressive cancer cells, fibrosarcoma, in 12 days, it gives a solid tumor. But parallelly, when we inject eye extract, ashwagandha extract, there is an inhibition of tumor formation. Similarly, in culture, when we treat normal cells and cancer cells in parallel with ashwagandha extract, normal cells keep dividing, but cancer cells die. So we wanted to understand why ashwagandha extract is killing cancer cells only. So we took our unique technology approach. There we used loss of function screening using siRNA library screening or randomized ribosome library screening and find the target. And we put them in a third, our technology, that is bioinformatics. And then what we found that ashwagandha extract kills cancer cells by activating a p53, p21 signaling pathway. So that means one of the mechanism is in cancer, p53, which is a guardian of genome, it is present in all normal cells, but it is inactive or mutated in 70%, more than 70% of cancer cells. And one of the mechanism of inactivation is it binds to motilin, which is involved in carcinogenesis. So it makes a complex. So when we treat this complex with ashwagandha, this complex is broken, p53 is translocated to nucleus, gets activated, and arrests or kills the cancer cells. Now that means ashwagandha leaf extract or eye extract kills cancer cells selectively by one of the mechanism is by activation of p53. Now this is a story of alcoholic extract. What happens when we use ashwagandha in water? For example, if you want to use it in a in water, like in tea or so. So we made a water extract and went through a battery of experiments like we did in alcoholic extract, and found that water extract also kills cancer cells. But surprisingly, the active molecule in water extract is not vithanolides, but it is a triethylene glycol. And water extract or triethylene glycol kills cancer cells by an alternative pathway that we call RB pathway, retinoblastoma signaling pathway. So that means water extract kills cancer cells, and the predominant active component in water extract is triethylene glycol, and it involves activation of RB. So that means ashwagandha leaf extract, when we make an alcoholic extract, the active components are vithanone, vithafurin A, like vithanolides, but water extract, triethylene glycol is the main active component. And alcoholic extract, it activates P53 pathway. In water extract, it activates RB pathway. If both signaling pathways are active, it can well manage the tumor effectively. So this is the reason why in Ayurveda, it is always recommended to use extract or the whole herb instead of just one component. So now if ashwagandha can kill cancer cells selectively, then what is it doing to the normal cells? So we took 3 kinds of human normal fibroblast and 1 cancer cells, bone cancer, to see the effect of ashwagandha extract and the single individual components. And what we find that 3 kinds of human fibroblast keep dividing in the presence of these vithanolides or extract, but cancer cells are killed, as I had stated before. Not only that, if you give an oxidative stress to normal human fibroblast, it kills. So you can see less cells here compared to the control, but in the presence of vithanone, which is found in ashwagandha, that it is protected. There are more number of cells are here. Similarly, when we treat the cells with UV, there's a damage here, less cells are here, but in the presence of vithanone or extract, number of cells are more. Not only that, if we grow cells in culture in the presence of vithanone or extract, and then look at the population doubling, so we find that it goes, normal fibroblasts divide about 4 to 5 population doubling more. That means these cells are getting lifespan extended, and these lifespan extended cells have less senescence marker. That means the aging is delayed. That means it is good for normal human fibroblast. So that means ashwagandha extract, vithanone is good for normal cells. Now I'm not going to go in details about ashwagandha and other disease or cancer in more details about the mechanism, but I would like to present you some of our new result, new data on ashwagandha and new coronavirus. So as we know that viruses are the bridge between living and non-living. They behave as living organisms inside the host body and behave as non-living organism outside the host body. And the viruses sizes ranges from 50 to 200 nanometer, and they contain only one type of genetic material, RNA or DNA. And this is the range of different organisms. And if you look at the life cycle of virus, there are very particular steps are there. For example, attachment. It first attaches to the cells, and then it penetrates inside the cells by some mechanism. One is endocytosis, and then it takes up a machinery of the host cells and starts replicating. So once it is matured, it is lysed and then again attack the neighboring cell. So as we are very much aware about the outbreak of SARS-CoV-2, it started from 8 December, and now by 29 June, WHO says that there are about 9.9 million cases and more than 498,000 deaths so far. So what is the difference between flu and COVID-19? So flu begins after 1 to 4 days of exposure. On the other hand, COVID begins after 12 to 14 days of exposure. The cause of flu is different strains of influenza viruses, but COVID causes are because of SARS-CoV-2. And the complications in flu is less likely to occur because of immunity built up over time. But in COVID-19, it is severe respiratory complications are there. And by now, the genome of SARS-CoV-2 has already been described. It is about 30 kb. The structure is known. There are M protein, N protein, S protein, spike proteins, and the infection cycle of SARS-CoV-2 is when this is a virus, it has a spike protein here. When it comes to contact with the membrane protein of a host cells, there are two receptors. One is a ACE2, this yellow one, which is angiotensin converting enzyme. And when the virus comes and binds to this ACE2 protein, this TMPRSS2, another protein in the membrane, which is a receptor protein, it cleaves the spike protein. Thus, this virus goes inside the human cells. So once it is inside the cells, it takes up the machinery, and then it uses its AMPRO protein and starts replication. So once it is replicated, matured, and then it goes out. So our aim is to target this membrane protein in human cells or this replicating protein, which is AMPRO in viral cells. So when we screened our components, and two of them were from ashwagandha, they are Vidanone and Vidafrin A. So what we found that Vidanone, it goes and binds by, this result is by computational. This goes and binds to the same pocket in SARS-CoV-2 at AMPRO, where N3, which is it's a known inhibitor, binds, and it utilizes the same amino acids like these ones. So another molecule we found at CAPE, which is found from honeybee propolis, also does the similar activity. And we also found that Vidanone goes and binds to TMPRSS2 protein, which is in the membrane of the cells, host cells. And very interestingly, we find that Vidafrin A, Vidanone, and the known inhibitor Camostat all are there in the pocket, in the same pocket. So in addition, we also found that Vidanone not only binds to this TMPRSS2 membrane protein, but it decreases the transcriptional regulation. It inhibits the transcriptional regulation by 50%. That means there is a three-way approach. One is Vidanone binds to AMPRO of viral protein. Second is it binds to the membrane protein TMPRSS2, and third is it decreases the mRNA of this protein. And in addition, what we also found that Vidanone, which is found in ashwagandha, is highly found in stem. So these are the two recent papers that we have got through this recently. And this talks about the prediction, how this natural compound from ashwagandha has potential to inhibit AMPRO required for viral replication in cells and cellular receptor TMPRSS2 required for viral infection. And Vidanone is enriched in ashwagandha stem. And it also talks about, although ashwagandha is easily available and affordable, one has to be cautious about the content of active ingredients and quality of the product we use. And we have been trying to engineer ashwagandha in field, greenhouse, sand, which is sandponic, waterponic, and using vermicompost for last few years. And we've been successful in growing ashwagandha in waterponic, that is hydroponic, so that our aim is to bring ashwagandha with defined signature for particular disease to society, so that it will be helpful. So with this, I would like to stop here and acknowledge my colleagues, students in the laboratory and the funding agency from DBT India, AIST Japan, and all the collaborators. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kaul, for a very nice brief talk. You can come back with your picture so that the viewers can interact with you. So you talked about the alcoholic extract and the water extract. You also showed the two forms by which you cultivate this in Japan. I think those images were from Japan. And you made a point that it sort of acts on the receptor through which the virus, the COVID-19 infection dynamics happens. And you very nicely showed some molecular imprints of where this acts and how it regulates. Is not only relevant to COVID-19, but is also relevant to aging and cancer. So it appears that this is a very effective drug, and in Ayurveda it is very well known. But in the audience that we have today, there are people from yogas, there are life scientists, there are some IITs and All India Institute and PGI faculty there. So it's a very interdisciplinary audience. And I guess we got an insight of the level at which we need to investigate a herb or a drug to see if it can actually act at the level by which it can stop the viral replication if we are trying to develop a drug against COVID, or how to engineer or look for extracts which have some sort of either a blocking action or an anti-inflammatory action, which is characteristic features of the this particular COVID crisis that we have. So the experiments, as you very nicely described, need to be carried out in petri dishes. They can be done at the animal level. And this is how, when the preclinical studies at the animal level and the cell level are successful, then they graduate at the human level or the patient level. But in your study, in your description of the analysis of ashwagandha, you restricted yourself to the preclinical studies, in vitro as we call it. And you did not show any animal study, or did I miss it?
No, for SARS-CoV, we do not have animal studies, only in vitro.
Correct.
Computational and in vitro only.
Right. In computational, you also talked about the structure and different receptors. And that gives us an insight how to design molecules or predict antiviral moieties or other molecules. So I was giving an overview to the interdisciplinary audience. I will start with my own question. First of all, congratulations for this excellent work. We have been waiting for you to come to our platform. You were waiting that these papers should be published after peer review, after the scientists in the field have put their stamp of approval. They must have asked you for some revisions and must have asked you for some more questions. So this is where you are showing us some evidence of mechanism of action of ashwagandha. You may be aware that in India, Ministry of Ayush has started what is called the HCQ versus ashwagandha comparative trial. HCQ has been very famous. It has been also, some trials are already ongoing, and there are good reports and bad reports. Some papers were retracted also with relation to HCQ. And then the Ministry of Ayush said, let us compare this with ashwagandha, which is when the interest of public was, they got more interested in what is happening. So do you think with this kind of study that you have, is it the right time to take it to the clinical level directly as it is happening?
Yes, not directly, but we are still working now very extensively how it is more in vitro work. But next maybe we can plan for clinical step by step for clinical studies also. But we do not have, at the moment, we are not ready with the clinical.
Right. And there are also reports that ashwagandha is then mixed up with the tulsi, and I think there is one giloy, so what is called as coronil, and some people are coming with their own preparations. People from Ayurveda are prescribing drugs that are a combination. So have you looked at these combinations on only ashwagandha? You mentioned with
for SARS-CoV-2, right? We have only worked on ashwagandha, and another compound which is called CAPE, which is found from honeybee propolis, we have worked on. That shows very nice effect, but we haven't done any combination so far, because this is just a start. and it will take some more time to come up with some combinations. We are doing it, but only in vitro. In vitro, yes.
So from in vitro, you will slowly go to animals also and test.
Yes.
In a viral
yes. So,
infected model of mice, which is infected with COVID, and how this behaves.
We are trying to collaborate with some laboratories in India for viral work, but we do not have access to viral work here. So we are collaborating with them. So let's see how it comes, and then only we can be more confident to go to the clinical. But at the moment, we are only restricted to in vitro system because it's too early to say anything.
Yes. So, and what do you think is the good source of ashwagandha for those who want to procure this? Should they go to Japan, to you?
No, not really. But only thing is that we have to be very careful while choosing ashwagandha, because some of the ashwagandha may not have vidanone or some of the compound which is required for sarcop. Or for example, in cancer, we used Vidafarin A or other vidanolides. So we have to be careful if the ashwagandha contains those compounds. So it is not necessary that it is found only in one part of ashwagandha, but wherever it is, we have to verify it, and the quality is very important.
So for Indian researchers who are interested to do some more research, will you recommend some groups in India where people are working with ashwagandha so they can contact them?
We are working with several laboratories in India, collaboration, IIT Delhi, then we have RCB, Regional Center for Biotechnology, Guru Nanak Dev University. All there we are working, collaborating together, but let's see what happens next.
Yes, sure. So if we will look at our panel, Dr. Saras or Kalyan, any question that hits your head you want to ask Dr. Kaul is with us. If you want to ask some question with relation to mechanism of the experiments he showed you, or you want to ask for an advice for your own research from the strategies that he has shown, that he has used.
Sir, I have.
Yes.
Sir, I have one question with my stem cell background. I want to know, sir said that ashwagandha is an anti-aging agent. So I just want to know if it is acting through adult stem cells, because you also explained that it inhibited the growth of tumor cells, and tumors cells, which is theory explained that it is because of the cancer stem cells. So do you relate its action on adult stem cell and cancer stem cells will be the same?
Actually, we have not worked on cancer stem cells so far, but what we see that normal fibroblast, when we culture them in the presence of ashwagandha extract or the vidanolides, vidanone, then there is a lifespan extension. And then those cells show less senescence marker. That means the cells are showing extension of aging process. So that's why we say that it is anti-aging. But we have not worked on stem cells so far.
Does that answer your question, Saras? You have a follow-up question?
It might be of my interest.
Saras, you can...
just like, sir, I just want to confirm that the way you said... Yes, sir?
You can, you can stop your video, so you will get more bandwidth. And then you can just speak, sir, because it is breaking down. Yeah. Now you can speak.
Yes, sir. Just want to know that.
I think you have a poor internet.
I just want to clarify myself that if ashwagandha is an anti.
I think she's asking if ashwagandha is known for its anti-inflammatory.
So I can contact him later and discuss.
Okay.
I got an idea of what you were asking. I will pose that question to Dr. Kaul on your behalf. So I guess she's asking if it is known to have any anti-inflammatory effect from the literature or from your own study. Because
yes, it has.
she is trying to correlate with the COVID-19 is known for a cytokine storm.
Yes, so as it inhibits the proliferation in cancer cells, and it also inhibits the proliferation of COVID, the virus. So we think that it is quite related. But as per her question with the stem cells, we haven't done work, but there is an indication in normal fibroblast that it extends the life of a normal fibroblast. So that's how we say that it is anti-aging.
Right. So you may be aware, Dr. Kaul, that many of the yogic practices and even Qigong have some published data where, for example, we looked at common yoga protocol. We have not got this published yet, but I think it is in final stages of revision. We showed that after we gave common yoga protocol for 3 months, the angiogenin level goes up, the VEGF level goes up. So apparently some neovascularization and new blood vessel formation, maybe it provides the right environment for that to happen. Do you think this is in line with the ashwagandha's mechanism of action in terms of giving the patients or giving the healthy individuals a dose of a yoga protocol plus ashwagandha and integrate that both together?
I think so.
I mean, this may be a speculative question, but how do you?
No, you are very much right. I think we can test it with yoga. We haven't done it, but so far we know from the response from people that it helps in good sleep and they get a very relaxation is there with ashwagandha. So there is a possibility that yoga with combination with yoga may be more powerful.
Yeah, with some of the yoga studies also showed that the IL-6 levels go down and even TNF alpha goes down. With ashwagandha, any data that TNF alpha and IL-6 go down? Any data, your data or others' data?
No, we haven't done it and I'm not aware, but we should check it actually with yoga. We've been thinking of.
But we should do that together then.
Yes.
Maybe we should plan. It also gives a high, and there is that mechanistic effect that has been already published, and some of us have different protocols are there. There is also a protocol which has come up with SPASA, so we can even test that. So now there is a comment in the Facebook. Namaste, sir. How to make ashwagandha powder?
I think the sound is breaking.
And should we take it every day?
I think I cannot hear you because sound is breaking.
Somebody. Shall I read? Okay. The question is, take ashwagandha powder. Kalyan. Okay, let me put the question in the chat box.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, you can repeat the question. And
yes, how can we take ashwagandha powder and should we take it every day? From Sangeeta Pati. So I myself take ashwagandha as a powder with warm water directly, not mixing. So that goes inside straight away. So that is about 300 milligrams. I use it. And every day I take it. So I feel good. So it can be taken every day. So either with water or warm milk.
So how would...
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So ashwagandha is also good for sleep because Withania somnifera means it induces sleep. So we also have a publication showing that ashwagandha really helps in sleep in mouse assay, in the rodent assay. So if you take a ashwagandha with warm milk at night, just half an hour before sleep, it gives a good sleep to me. Great. So this is helpful for health. Yes.
Let's see if Kalyan has any question. Kalyan is our yoga practitioner. also helping in the setting up the entire program between the different sessions.
Sir, does ashwagandha have any benefits on like sleep arousal system or etc.? Like there are which stages of sleep can be
Yes.
good to ashwagandha? Is there any study on that?
Yes, we have a publication 2 years back. We did it, and we found that ashwagandha can help in good sleep, and this is a non-REM sleep, NREM sleep, so which is important. Yes, and this is work. This work is on mouse actually.
Okay.
And we found that ashwagandha enhances, but the molecule responsible in ashwagandha is a triethylene glycol, which helps in sleep inducing. So that's what I say that. Yes, that's why I say that at night before sleep, if we take ashwagandha with warm milk, it gives a very good sleep. That's what I take it myself.
So is there?
Do you recommend a dose? Sorry, Kalyan.
I use it about 300 to 400 milligrams. Just a little teaspoon, I mean quarter of a teaspoon, and not mixing, but just because it is not soluble in water or milk like as it is. So I just take it in the powder and then with the warm milk.
But you also mentioned alcoholic. You mentioned alcoholic extract. And you mentioned the water extract. Which is better for?
Yes. I do not make the extract. I just take it the leaf powder itself, without making an extract. So extract is to understand the mechanism, to find out what molecule bioactives are present. But actually for taking, I prefer powder itself.
Yes,
but that powder must have those vithanolides, active ingredients. Yes.
So, sir, I think we should take up the human study on sleep and
yes.
ashwagandha.
So this is a yes.
And also, sir, does ashwagandha have any effect on memory, or is there any study on that?
We have extensive work on memory also, that it improves in Parkinson case also, Alzheimer's case also, it improves the mobility. We have extensive work on Parkinson neurologically.
So maybe it enhances the hippocampal neuron life,
yes,
or
yes,
enhances cell survival. The same mechanism
yes.
of action, or some
same
other way?
same mechanism. Yes, we have looked at Alzheimer, but our most of the work is on in vitro and in vivo rodent system. So there we find that it helps in memory enhancement, neurodegeneration, and so on.
So someone is asking that. Sorry, Kalyan, you go ahead.
Sir, is there any changes in dopamine level in the case of Parkinson and etc.?
We haven't looked at dopamine, but there is a report that it changes, but I do not remember exactly what it is. But already there is a report here.
Okay. Has anybody attempted to make a synthetic analog? Because you showed the nice structure. So yes. Apparently the structure is very well known.
Yes. Once we try to make a synthetic, we try to bring a synthetic one with a known that particular active component, and it didn't work, synthetic one. But the extract obtained from extract, it worked. So there is a conformational changes. We have to be very careful before using. That's what I said, that every step we have to be very careful before we go and say clinically that it is how it is working.
So somebody is asking that she tried to mix it with water or milk, but it was not happening. Apparently it was not mixing up.
Yeah, it does not mix. So I prefer taking the powder as it is with the milk, not by mixing.
Any reports of side effects, Dr. Kaul?
So far, I haven't heard any side effect, and people are taking in grams. There is no bad effect. Only in literature, it says that the pregnant women should not take it. But again, there is no evidence.
And in Japan, any of your colleagues or friends in Japan taking this?
Several. It's very popular in our circle.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think we had a very nice session, and I hope your work in Japan continues, and this India Dye Lab, which is one of the first labs, as you mentioned, outside India, funded by India, by Department of Biotechnology, where
Yes.
you've been working. We wish you
Yes.
good luck, and I hope when
Thank
you
you.
do your recruitment, you consider some of the bright Indian students to come and work with you whenever whoever
Sure.
is meritorious and suited
Sure.
to your
And we
profile.
should work with yoga also
Great.
in
So
conjunction
we
with
have yoga
yoga.
protocols. We have,
Yes.
for example, Kalyan is a QCI certified yoga practitioner. I myself level 1 yoga practitioner, and
Yeah.
there are those who are involved in development of customized yoga protocols for different
Mhm.
Kapha, Vata, Pitta. So there are people working at
Yeah.
that level also. So we can definitely work between India and Japan through your center and
Sure.
explore the frontiers of knowledge, especially when the untreatable diseases stare at us and cost
Yes.
effectiveness is also there.
Sure. Yes.
There is one more before we close. Somebody, Claudia Gomez, one of our international Facebook person, is asking: is there any medical condition where taking ashwagandha should not be recommended?
So far, I know my knowledge or literature, there is no such restrictions. Only one case is that in pregnant women should not take it. Otherwise, I have not heard anything like that so far.
But I was thinking, I may be
Yes.
wrong, since it's a very important question from Claudia Gomez. Since it restricts the cancer cells, you showed that,
Yes.
and
Yes.
also helps in aging.
Yes.
Apparently, it has anti-aging effect. So
Yes.
the opposite of cancer is degeneration, like
Yes.
Alzheimer, Parkinson's. They will have restricted cellular growth, opposite of
Yes.
cancer.
Yes.
Cancer will have cellular proliferation and uncontrolled cell growth, while the opposite will be neurodegenerative disorders,
Yes.
such as I mentioned.
Yes.
So maybe ashwagandha is not good for degenerative disorders of the brain and eye.
No. The point is what ashwagandha should have that particular component for Alzheimer's and the other component for cancer. So like that, any ashwagandha will not work for all disease as universally. So we have to understand that which component is present and which one works for which disease. So for example, Vidaferin A is good for anti-cancer, Vidanone is good for neurodegeneration, and luckily Vidanone is good for this COVID also. So like that, we have to understand what component is required and whether that is present in ashwagandha. And ashwagandha varies where it is grown in which part of the world, because the constituents of ashwagandha varies from place to place depending on secondary metabolites, water, soil, and so on. So that's what I said, that we have to be very careful before using that, whether that particular component is present for particular disease or not.
So it is just
then
the
we will be
same.
confident.
Yeah, very nicely. I think it is a very important point that
Yes.
Claudia raised and set up this discussion, that
Yes.
which type of ashwagandha, where it is grown, and because
Yes.
it has many constituents, A, B, C,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so more research is required, and based on research, correct prescriptions will evolve. And
Yes.
that is just like our different yoga protocols. So we have common yoga protocol for 45 minutes, which is practiced on International Day of Yoga. It has standing, sitting asanas, prone and lying asanas. The meditation component is certain percentage of the overall protocol.
Right.
So then we have a diabetic yoga protocol, which is 15 minutes more. And it has asanas and postures which, press on the Mandukasana, those that, sort of massage the belly area. And it is also more dynamic. And therefore, we have been, Dr. Kaul, you'll be happy to know, we have been doing these asana specific series for a long time. So they will demonstrate one asana, what is the contraindication, what are the benefits, which particular aspect of the body is benefited. And also the spiritual benefits are also, although they are not really testable, but what is written in the ancient literature is also spelled out. So apparently with ashwagandha and other Ayurvedic drugs, maybe HPLC analysis of which constituent they are made up of and which part is good for which disease. That analysis needs to come out at the in vitro level, animal level,
Yes.
and the human level.
So
Is
that's
this
what
the message you are giving to the viewers?
Yes, that's what we've been working for last 15 years, that which part of ashwagandha, what components is present, and what kind of combination is required for what disease. So any ashwagandha will not work for any disease. So one component which is good for anti-cancer may not be present in ashwagandha found in another part of the place from other geographical region. Then people, if they use that ashwagandha commercially or clinically, and they will not work, then people will not believe that, oh, Ayurveda doesn't work. But actually the problem is we are not taking the right component ashwagandha.
But are these things mentioned in Ayurveda? I'm sorry.
It is not mentioned. That's what we are trying to show through our papers, through our research, that ashwagandha, any part of ashwagandha is different part of ashwagandha is required. I mean, important. What component is required and how it is grown, all are required.
So it's very interesting, and our platform actually makes this knowledge go far and wide, and also the process of analysis begins among those who are listening. That wherever this knowledge of ashwagandha went to a certain level when it was written in Ayurveda, probably it stopped there. And what you're doing basically is to take it forward from there further on. So in other words, integrative medicine, which our journal also, the integrative medicine case report advocates, sort of promotes this exercise of taking where the knowledge of the Ayurveda was left behind. And maybe parts of it is absolute, but I do not think everything can be absolute. It needs to be further improvised. Certain things have to be dropped out, and others have to be refined, as you mentioned. I mean, ashwagandha provides that beautiful landscape to understand the importance of doing research, more and more research, in whether it is in Ayurveda, Siddha, Yoga, even modern medicine for that matter. All of that is science, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And evidence-based herbal, we have to use it so that it becomes more, clear in clinical trials.
Correct. So one last one, Dr. Guruvardhan.
Yes.
From Wisconsin has joined and is asking, why does it not get it dissolved in the water? They will accept it and they'll be able to dissolve and drink it. More convenient for this to happen. Is it?
Yes. So it does not dissolve in water or milk. So the bioavailability is also, we have to consider how it can reach the target sites. So for that, we are making different combinations using different kind of materials to make it more bioavailable. But at the end, if you use the powder itself, so either in the form of capsule or directly, it is more advisable than mixing in water or things. Yes.
Or put it in a chapati when you make some bread.
Any kind of. Yes.
Right. So we once again thank you a lot, Dr. Kaul, for joining us. And this must be late night, 10 o'clock or something in Japan.
No problem.
We wish you good luck and thank you for enlightening us and our viewers. If there are feedbacks, I will come back to you and I will
anytime
to you. So thank you very much from all of us.
Thank you so much.